Good afternoon, everyone. The meeting is now open at 5:00 p.m. We're going to take a moment of silence, followed by the pledge.
One nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we're now open for public comment. Barry, you want to lead us?
Public comment periods will be held at the beginning of the scheduled meeting and limited to a maximum of 30 minutes. Each person desiring to speak shall clearly state their name and will have a maximum of 3 minutes to make his or her remarks. A speaker may not speak more than once during the same public comment period, and unused time may not be yielded to another speaker. To avoid repetition, groups of individuals who expect to have the same or similar comments are encouraged to select a spokesperson to speak on their behalf. Public comment is not intended to require the board to answer any impromptu questions. The board should refrain from engaging in dialogue except to the extent necessary to clarify the speaker's position. The board shall not entertain questions from the audience, and discussions between speakers and members of the audience shall be prohibited. Speakers shall maintain proper decorum and shall make their comments in a civil manner. Personal attacks and use of obscene and profane language are prohibited. Speaker comments should be limited to subjects that are within the board's jurisdictions. Action on items brought up during the public comment period will be at the discretion of the board.
Okay, floor is now open.
Elizabeth Longman. Yesterday, on November 6th, I handed to the board members, I hope that everyone got this. This was delivered to the office. It says, breach of open meeting rule by Chair Alison Fenderson. During the October 2023 regular meeting, 2 board members said they would be working on the new classification for employment with the Board of Elections, Mr. McNutt and Mr. Bell. When they met up after the meeting at a local restaurant, they proceeded to accomplish the task. Ms. Fenderson came to the restaurant and took a seat at the table, even after the gentleman repeatedly told her that her presence there was in violation of the rules. She remained there. They were observed by the Harnett County Director of Human Resources. Ms. Fenderson did not declare in the regular meeting that she wanted to be part of the team doing the reclassification. By her insisting on being at the table with the 2 people working on it, she proved that she was willing to circumvent the rules in the statute to have her way. More so, after the meeting, she conspired with others to bring falsified actions to the North Carolina Board of Elections against Mr. Bell. This not only breaks the open meeting rule, but also constitutes a fraudulent action to smear the reputation of a fellow board member in order to retain her position. Her actions cast the appearance of impropriety on all of the Board of Election actions. The injunction we're going to look for will delay election certification and job reclassification in Harnett County. I ask the board to mitigate the situation by asking Ms. Fenderson's immediate resignation, as she has brought credibility issues to the work of the Board of Elections in Harnett County. Let this serve as notice of the awareness of the open meeting rule breach as required by law. Also, the paperwork that was submitted to the state board was supposed to have come through here as well, because rules of submission require that whatever is filed at the state, that is filed down here also. It was not. We compared signatures of the person they were saying was filing the complaint. Her name is Gwen McNeil. She was a candidate for mayor in the city of Dunn. This is a copy of her statement of organization, filed and signed at the Board of Elections office. The signature on the paperwork submitted to the state board did not match. So when those were submitted, that is why both boards needed to receive a copy. There was no way to verify who exactly was sending that information. Also, the open meeting rule again was breached when, through Rebecca, chair of the Harnett County Democratic Party, sent a three-way email. It says, if any communication occurs, any communication, including electronic, the statute specifies including electronic occurs, when any communication occurs, that triggers the open meeting rule when it's three-way. So it is a shame that we have to come to this point again where rules have been breached. And I'm asking the board to take action and make sure that things are correct. And I'll hand papers in if you need them, so you can see for yourselves. Go ahead, Arthur.
I'm concerned about the board's actions. Fraud is illegal. Fraud is what makes everything you do, even now, questionable. We have the evidence. We're going to put it forth to the state. And we want to make sure that everyone here knows that this is something that you're going to have to take seriously. We do not believe you're capable of making decisions, even now, as the board continues, because we think the board is involved in this, and that other people from outside are also part of this fraud scheme. And we will bring it to bear by the law completely and utterly. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Board. Rebecca Brock. I wanted to just talk about the election today, where taking a look at all of the different polls, things seem to be going smoothly from all different polls. However, I did notice we don't have our photo ID signs out. At the beginning of the morning, there was just 8.5 by 11 signs in the polls. Later on, there were 11 by 17 signs that were taped up to the stake signs. And I do think when we get to the primary, you ought to have, you know, a 3 by 5 banner that says photo ID required. Because I did see one person, able-bodied, to go back, get the photo ID and come back. That's not a problem. Now it's not cold, it's not rainy, but also this is an ambulatory person. If somebody is trying to get in on their last leg, that's going to be a big deal to go back to their car. So I just want to make that request. The Harnett happenings in November had us at the second from the top, so Desiree did a great job. The water insertion I'd like to make sure happens. I'd also like to ask that you approve the 4 early voting sites for the primary, the Standard Anger, Central Lillington, Irwin, Duke, and Western Harnett, so that we can get as many voters through the early voting period as possible. I also like the signage in Lillington, if you can do, the billboards, and potentially have that 5th person do outreach to nursing homes and to skilled living places so that they know they can vote and get their photo ID through that. I think that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hello, Dana Vasquez, and I also was out observing, and I had a concern with the voter ID situation in that some voters, the election officials, were using the ID address, which I did not think that that was part of the intent of the voter ID. I thought the voter ID was picture with name, because their addresses may not be what's on their photo ID. So I just had a concern that we make sure that that's consistent across, because one precinct, I think, was actually saying that they had to have an item with their address on it for some reason. So I think we need to get clear about exactly what is intended by the voter ID law. Another thing that I was a little unclear on is using, like, what time are we going by? Because when I went to take the time for one of the vote counts, I was looking at the machine and seeing what time it was, but the person standing there was telling me a different time, and they say they're going by the times on their phones as opposed to the time on the machine. So that just leaves a little room for somebody to be upset that they're not getting to vote, perhaps because the times aren't clear. I think that's maybe just my questions for open comment time. So thank you.
I am Michael Bridgers, and I wanted to express some concern about the effort to eliminate more than one early voting site. Voting is not a privilege. Voting is a right. Voting is a right that's guaranteed to every eligible citizen by the United States Constitution. And if early voting is restricted to a single site, then what you've done is you made it more difficult for some people to vote and easier for others, where the responsibility of the state who runs the elections is to make it easy, relatively easy for any eligible citizen to cast their ballot. So I think you need to take some consideration when you are addressing this issue.
Tony Spears, 1334 McLean Chapel Church Road, Bun North Carolina. Was not planning on coming until I said I'm not dressed accordingly to come, but excuse my attire, okay? One of the issues I'd just like to say is when I was on the board, I know it was suggested that we do not go to the polling places. I understand that. But what I'm saying is some things you would need to see for yourself, or are you willing to take what we say and give it to you and address it at a later issue? One of the things, the reason I'm saying that is, went to a polling place and I've seen where you've already marked the 100-foot from the door and wherever you need, setting up your place, but there's nobody there. They set up somewhere else and they changed everything around. So I'm like, so who do I mention this to? And I'm told that people are confused and they're leaving because they didn't know they're supposed to went over there and went to the curbside because you know how people are, they're used to something. And we always did it over there. And I was like, well, I don't know what happened. But I'm just saying, so if we give it to you all, then you can address it later, right? Am I correct? So that I can be able to say, okay, this is what they're gonna do. Because what I'm saying is, we got a lot of new people that's telling us we need to do something this way, that way, and we've been doing it this way. And the prime example, what I'm talking about, is Andrew. And all I'm hearing is, we changed it because of the car riders. And so now they come in this way, but you don't have a sign saying curbside this way. And to be about the time, 4 o'clock, a sign was moved further up the hill to let them know about where to go to curbside. That's a lot of time that has lapsed. And even now, people setting up, the electioneers setting up, taking up the whole front parking space. So somehow we got to address the electioneers and let them know, that's somewhat a hazard to take up the whole parking space. So there's a lot of little issues, and I just encourage people to always call the Board of Election and make your complaint known, document, just like everybody else is doing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Only statement I've got to make as far as people's phones are concerned. I know our computers for voting are not hooked up to any computing systems. However, our phones are set to the DC clock that is calibrated with the Colorado clock, cesium being calibration. Okay, so the phones, every time you connect to a Wi-Fi or to a tower, will update the time. So if that solves your problem. And my other question looks like it's on the bottom of your closed session.
So we're gonna close, public comment. And move to the meeting minutes.
So everybody has before them a copy of the minutes from yesterday's meeting, November 6th. Yeah, if you didn't have a chance to review them, when I email them, you can look at them now, and if everybody's happy, a motion to approve will be in order.
Make a motion that we approve the meeting as presented. Madam Director, Madam Chair.
Second?
Second. I'm awake.
No way.
Alright. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Since it's the one that's signed.
Okay, ready for election update?
So just a few election updates. As of 4 o'clock today, our election day totals were at 1,451. With West Davisboro as our leader with 605. And then Black River was just behind it at 411. And then East Davisboro with 258. Wellington had 101, Coates was at 69, Mills Creek at 5, and Anderson Creek at 2. So again, the totals was 1,451. So far, I think we've had a good turnout. We really haven't gotten a lot of calls from any voting sites today, so there's no issues to report. We did do one supply run this morning because some of the voter ID signs that Rebecca was talking about this morning were left at the office, so we went around today and took them out. I will say that the voter ID signs we used for the municipals were made signs because the state did not supply us with any photo ID signs. So we're going to get some printed hopefully before the primary, with hope that the state board will give us an outline to go by as far as, instead of us just creating one, but if we had to create one, we'll have one printed up. That should be nicer than the ones we have used.
Will they be bigger?
Yeah.
Like a yard
Mhm.
sign size was what I was thinking.
Yeah, the ones we had was GIS printing for us on some larger paper. So we're gonna have something like actual cardstock next time.
That like you can print out.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So we are gonna improve the voter ID signs before the primary. The majority of the phone calls we received today was mostly from voters that were outside the city limits. So they heard that voting was going on and went to their polling place. Johnsonville was one of our big callers today, people coming out to Johnsonville. So we just talked the voters through, the elections, municipals, how they work, and then reassured them that their next election would be the primary. And so we did not have anybody angry with us over it, it was just more of an education thing. But other than that, everything's been fine. And then the only other update I have was just to let you know that we received a complaint today, but Elizabeth has already talked about that. So that is pretty much all I have as far as updates. Any questions?
I have a comment.
Okay.
I got an independent call that there was a couple of issues at Anderson Creek, and the issue was that they were not asking or saying their addresses. They were just giving them the ID cards. And so that was something that was brought to my attention.
Okay. Yeah, we'll address that. We can reach out there, address it, and then we'll also make sure we improve our training on that area as well to make sure that they know to have them state and repeat that.
So Claire, on the voter ID, the state hasn't standardized a particular one.
They
Will
have,
they?
I'm hoping they will. You talking about for the ID signs?
Yeah, I mean,
Mm-mm. They have not for outside signs. Now what we have inside is the flyers with the different kinds of IDs. That the state has given us, that's posted inside. But as far as outside signs, they have not developed an outside sign. And so when we created ours, I actually sent it to the state for them to approve it, and they, what I did was taking the top part of their memo, and so when they replied back, they said take the state board emblem off of it because it's not coming from the state board. So that's why ours should say Harnett County Board of Elections on them. So I'm hoping between now and the primary, they'll make something universal that we could use. But if not, we'll still have what we have. We'll just make it a more durable, larger sign.
That issue came up at conference that the state, the Board of Elections does not provide any funding or any material for promoting and educating our election. That's incumbent on us to do.
So for the election itself, we advertise on that. But typically, if there's like the photo ID and something that's being sent down by the state, they'll help with certain aspects. They may not buy signs for us, but they'll typically give us an outline or a, this is what your sign has to look at, a proof more or less that we can have printed somewhere else.
Okay, but we have to fund it ourselves.
More often than not, yes. Unless they get any kind of state funds, federal funds, HAVA grants, anything like that. But 99% of the time, it's going to be something funded from the county.
Okay.
Any other questions? Move on now.
Yep.
Okay. So the next section is just our absentee list. So we do not have any additional absentees to consider today. So what we're doing now will be taking the absentee machine and the one-stop voting machine. We're going to open those machines up. You'll verify the number on them is accurate from when they were closed. We'll print those tapes and complete the absentee abstract. The board will sign the tapes as well as the abstract. You will have access to the numbers on the tapes, but remember they are confidential until 7:30. That is when the results will be released. I will go ahead and just let you know that we will probably have to merge some of our numbers because, for example, at one stop, we only had one voter from Mills Creek come and vote. So to preserve the voter secrecy, that number will be merged with the election day numbers to help to keep the privacy of that person's vote. Anderson Creek only had 3 people who voted early and by absentee by mail, so that'll be another one we'll have to merge with. So even though we'll see that on the tapes today, when we report it tonight, it will be reported with the election day totals to preserve the secrecy. So I just wanted you guys to be aware of that as well. So with that, I'll go ahead and open up the machines and then print those tapes out.
May I make a statement?
Yes.
This isn't regarding the voting, but regarding the public comment. I'd like to say that to the authors of those complaints, I suggest that they refer to the election and related laws and rules of North Carolina, specifically Section 16322, Clause C, wherein it states, and I'll quote it, "The State Board of Elections shall have power to remove from office any member of a county board of elections for incompetency, neglect, or failure to perform duties, fraud, or for any other satisfactory cause. Before exercising his power, the state board shall notify the county board member affected and give that member an opportunity to be heard. And I mention that because this board has no authority to act on this complaint that was submitted. And that I suggest that you pursue your remedy through that body. And I just wanted to make that statement.
I'll just say real quick, this is just a notice required by law. Before I file there, they require that I give notice so you all are aware that there was an issue. And then I will file at the state, and the state will say, we will count my days to file according to the day that you were made aware. So that's how it goes. Like, you are all made aware, you know that the infraction happened, and from that point on, I have 45 days from the day everyone was made aware to filing the injunction by statute.
Well, that's all I wanted to say, just clarify. I don't want to debate. I
Okay.
just wanted to make that statement.
All right, I'll get these. My keys.
Yes, sir.
Oh, the little thing did work, right?
Yeah. I've been just plugging on.
She gave me a shot and it really helped. And it
Yeah,
didn't hurt.
mine gets stuck too, but when I move that thing, it's usually stuck in
Does it hurt when you?
Uh-huh.
Okay, it's the same thing.
When I first started, I went to the doctor and I was like, what the heck is wrong? She was like, it's arthritis. Like,
That's what you were showing. Because you didn't have all the other.
But everybody told me how painful that thing was.
Yes, this
It
is,
was not
this is
hurt.
the
It hurt.
absentee, and this is the ones that are one.
I read the other day that the reason they used the cord across the top was that's what you used to type the word typewriter. Now, when they invented it, I didn't try it.
A lot of quirks.
It is untyped.
How often do they replace or update?
So equipment, it's up to the board when to update it. They recommend, every 10 years.
And county funds it.
Yeah,
except for we funded it last year.
yeah, we covered half of
Nice, nice stuff.
Using some of our.
Yeah, we used the money we could use for new office.
We're buying signs.
All right, so this is the absentee by mail CC, the public count is 19. If you want to verify that with the paper, there's no paper from last night. And the yellow one is from early voting, so their last number was 323. So you'll be able to see on here where it has 323.
So I mean, really. I'm just saying.
Okay, it's your second trip.
So if they just close this one.
Now I'm with you. Just for
Do what? I had to walk in the house and get it. But I've got several, so they're in different vehicles.
I did get to make 3 calls today. I think it was Andrew.
Well, back in the old days, you sign, you visit this with the state boards and trusts. Probably not a good idea. But I miss traveling out to see them.
I went out, and this one, Neil's Creek,
That was the people voting in the Willie election, right?
Yeah. And I got there and they were sitting on it.
Same time, it's on battery power.
Yeah, they was glad to see. Yeah. They were not overworked at all. They just, you got any more? Bring it on.
Yeah, I sat there all day for full voters.
Mhm.
With water bottle, and it was one family.
At one time.
And a water bottle.
Come back in.
And that was it.
Anderson Creek extends this part of the building.
Satellite.
Just satellite, okay, they
Out there, the Harmony Church.
Oh, okay, so, even though it's not incorporated, it's just,
Well, it's satellite annexation, so it actually is a part of the building.
do they
This is
got?
what time you're
Tired.
Providing instructions.
Got some caffeine.
Okay, all right.
Oh, we'll get a meal.
You said the ones I never saw, that might, it would help if they were incorporated or something. More
Wait
services.
till Andrew Littleton merge.
Andrew,
I mean, it's coming.
Andrew,
So-
Littleton, done it all.
So this is the tapes for the absentee by mail, so you can review it, but I just need all the board members to sign here and sign here.
The robbery still continues. You know, and I thought
This is
right,
back toward the
the high
end.
school.
It's about
You did with the children.
Oh, I got you. So we need a few more fires and 2 more fuel. Okay. Good word. Yeah. But that's, wow.
And
Billy
this
Barfield,
one
Vegas,
is
Vegas, Barfield, yeah. Saying, he told you what he thought.
Barfield did.
He did?
A lot.
That's right.
They were in the office over there.
And you know, and he treated like I was just wanted to do this thing.
I think that's one.
Yeah, no, I got it.
I mean, hold it, I'll strike it.
Well, not on this right, on my other side.
Second one. This is just what we did yesterday, right? I mean, this is,
Yeah, this is the, what from yesterday, and then this is early voting.
go ahead, I'll.
I've got to be working on this one.
Hey Goldie, you got your phone there? What time does your phone say?
You get this one.
Yeah.
She'll run away from.
Elizabeth, what time does your phone say?
5
That's always what we do.
Yeah. The top section of the bottom sheet, so it goes in, you just have to sign in place.
And then it has to be,
At least if everybody is on the same agreement.
It's gonna be dark.
I'll let you do one on the other one.
Gentleman scholar.
You have, it's all about.
Really?
Then you have,
My husband was too. When we first got married, he tried to tell myself. So I go to bed early. I just can't do it.
And I got asked about it. So you're the pink one.
Yeah.
Just yourself up. You're gonna go up. I don't have to do this, I don't have to read anything.
God forbid, the cell towers were, you know, what they were going and going down.
Get one, yeah. That one.
Yes, talk to
I
that.
said, they don't need, there does not need to be a doctor.
For sure.
I'm so tired
That's
of
the
my.
leading.
And there's a purpose behind it. And I did get a question on Jeopardy. Last week, on a high school chemistry question, I got it right. You would look like grapes. That might be the only thing I remember. Some of the people are so smart, and then they miss some of the simple stuff.
Yeah.
I have to get a running start. and stuff. They always avoid the Bible, that's the last one they would go to. There was a preacher on there about 2 weeks ago. He gave the Bible category, he ran the category.
Oh, good.
Hey,
Sign those, right?
I think missing, when you do that, they messed up the order, so Elmore is right here, but on the tape, Elmore is at the bottom. You have to look at which ones you're doing.
Is it back in? Yes, back out.
Oh, Seth has this one.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
all right. Okay.
It's a sign and turn.
This is the abstract to be signed for the absentee one.
I didn't see it, but I got the radio something, but.
Oh, so they got the heat. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, I can tell too.
Where was the bill? If you wanna come sign this one, this is the abstract for the absentee.
Oh, okay.
And then Seth is doing the one for, One Stop Early Voting.
Opposite's okay, but she literally was drilled. You know how the tents are kind of curved around the sidewalk, kind of like Lillington, you know, the common. So just imagine someone, she literally was driving directly towards us. Yeah, and so I said to, let's watch, let's hope she doesn't jump the curb because something happens, or it was sunlight, she was facing west. She would come across stuff.
Keep you on your toes.
Whether you go that way, this way, she went to where the people were, so she could get the help.
In order, yeah.
I think they.
So there's 2 pages of this one. Do you mind?
Oh, you
I
did?
watched you do it.
They have to have a lot of access to get a hold of.
Yeah, oh yeah, I was thinking about the manufacturer. See, I got 7 now. 7's my smallest workers here. I think I keep losing my, I'll go back to 6.
I want to get Chloe on 7, but she's on the Omni 5, and the 7s are having to do that.
My thing with 7 is where
This one right here.
One of the doors or something.
That's what you,
On the wall.
and then we go back on the second page.
I've been on there.
Wait, no,
Two
no, there
days.
it is, right here.
This
That's
is
right.
my third week.
Your third one in 2 weeks?
I was taking off the shirt, one of them. Said I was going for the George.
That was like,
Right here.
yeah, that's why she likes the Omni because, is because, she doesn't have one that had two.
Yeah.
And then if she was here for the doors that she had to get someone too, she would be moving it off. So, yeah.
Signage is everything.
A person reminder, what was the one reminds me of, this is the actual anticipated, and the prophecy, you get two, and is in the prophecy. Boy.
It really was.
I'm
One
sorry.
more thing.
That would be a bad conversation.
I'm sorry. What I say? What's this one?
That's the,
Oh, the abstract.
abstract, uh-huh.
You want this order, this you couldn't finish.
Hey, that.
You signed so much, so have your check ready tomorrow.
Yeah. Once I got some of those. You use the combination mark?
No.
Yeah.
No, if I use that, I'd probably have to break it.
Yeah. I learned not to use them. Good, right. Cut it down, but then, where you,
Well,
put it.
oh, I left it
Yeah,
inside.
I would
Oh,
go
my
in there. I didn't spend my money on that research work.
Now, I can remember my high school locker combination, but I can't remember the safe combination.
Got your priorities mixed up there a little bit.
Just the current, I think it's mine.
Because if you go with a little combination mark, if you held them just right, you can kind of feel when those tumblers fell in. Safe, you can't do that.
So this is just, the same thing I gave last week about the one-stop information. So the front page on that is just what early voting would look like if we did the same thing that we did in 2022. It's the same hours, same location. The dates are just updated to reflect the March election. The second page is just a snapshot of last few years of early voting for the primaries. And you can see in yellow, I've highlighted the presidential primaries. And then below that's just a graph. And then the pages afterwards is just the guidelines we have to go by as far as our early voting hours, matching hours, and having satellite sites. So I know typically the board likes to have consistency, which is why I went ahead and just did the top page with what we did in 2022, because that's consistent with what we've done in the past. But it's completely up to the board to make that decision to change that. So at this point, the floor is open for discussion or suggestions as far as the 2024 primary early voting plan is concerned.
In 2020, you did not have voting in Black River Anger. And there was some discussion previously about not having it, but I don't favor closing a polling place. I mean, consistency, the voters. Now, we used Anderson Creek in 2018, but that was only 62 voters in early voting, so that's why we discontinued that one.
Yeah, and I will say, we opened Anderson Creek that year for the board members who weren't on the board at that time, to try to get some of the flow from Western Harnett.
Right.
But people are so used to going to Western Harnett, they won't go anywhere else. So that is why Anderson Creek did not see good numbers when we tried it, because everybody still wanted to go to what they were familiar with, which was Western Harnett. So, and I don't know if this helps start the conversation, but I would recommend going with what we've done consistently with the past couple of years. So I would be okay if the board was in favor of what was suggested on the first page. Again, we're open for discussion.
That's not eliminating any.
That is not eliminating anything. That is everything that we did in the past. And I think in 2020, one of the things I had suggested was having the first 2 Saturdays 8 to 3, so it was in line with the last Saturday. But we do get a lot of voters on Saturday, so it definitely is a benefit to have it open till 5 those Saturdays.
So the voting, so February 15th is a Thursday? Is that right? Is that just
It should be
a Thursday?
Yeah,
February, so it goes from February 15th.
until that Saturday before. So March 2nd.
March, okay.
Trying to get to my calendar. Yeah, so it runs about 2.5 weeks, so February 15th until March 2nd.
And it's like, the February 15th date is required by statute.
Yes.
And the hours, the weekday hours are.
The weekday hours are again also is
statute.
mandatory. The only way you cannot do 8 to 7:30 is if we did 8 to 5 every day. And for a primary, I just don't. I think we get a lot of our numbers right there at and after 5. But if you extend it 1 hour, then you have to do 7:30. So we don't have any play in those weekday hours. It's 8 to 5 or it's 8 to 7:30.
And so why do you have us closing that last Saturday at 3 instead of at 5?
That's statute. So the last Saturday, we have to close at 3.
We can't do it at 5.
Not the last Saturday.
You definitely need those weekdays open to 7:30.
Yeah, I agree.
And I move that we approve the plan as presented.
Question. There's been some concern about having the early voting site in Dunn. We have one
In
here
Irwin.
in Irwin. Is there a reason that we don't have early voting in Dunn, especially?
So Irwin is just what we've always done, because geographically, if you look at the map, the early voting sites are evenly spread out. I will say there was one year that we reached out to Dunn to do early voting there because Irwin had mold in their community center, and Dunn did not want to. They were not happy with the idea of us taking their community building or the school for 2.5 weeks. And then Irwin was able to accommodate us in the Parks and Rec building. So that's how we got moved from the community building in Irwin to the Parks and Rec building. But yeah, geographically, just Irwin, Western, Angier, and Ellington just is evenly spaced out across the county.
And Dunn refused, they just didn't want to have their community center inconveniences.
Because they rent it out, and so with us, if we were to do that, it would take away from their income. So they were not interested in us moving to Dunn.
And we could, but
We
would.
could.
I think the Irwin location, since we've moved to that gym,
It's
much
got a
better.
much larger parking space,
Yeah.
it's a larger space
Yeah.
inside.
I don't like that bottleneck that people have to go through, but other than that, I think it's a pretty
You mean
good
where the
location.
goalposts? Yeah.
Community center, is that the only thing that's available to us in Dunn? Is that only, the schools or, well, we don't want to do early voting, I guess, in schools. The community center's the only thing.
I second.
All right, so current motion to do what was submitted before you, second by William McNutt. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, so that will be our plan, and we will get that submitted and posted everywhere. Right, so the next item of business is we do need to go into closed session to discuss personnel. If the board wants, we can, motion to go into closed session. If you guys get a potty break, we can do that, because I have to go to HR and get, Janice.
Okay, that sounds good.
So, motion,
I'll make that motion. Just that we're
going to closed session.
going into closed session.
Second,
I'll second.
all right, it is 5:50, we are in closed session. open session.
Much better.
Alright, so just a couple things before we dismiss. Thursday, the 9th, at 9 o'clock, we will have our sample hand-eye count. So after every election, the state board will randomly select 2 precincts that we have to hand-eye count the ballots. They will give us that information on Wednesday. So on Thursday, we'll have 2 bipartisan teams here in this room to do the hand count. It is not required that you guys are there, but it's certainly suggested that you come and observe
And
that
5 o'clock?
9 a.m.?
at 9 a.m.
Oh, 9 a.m.
9 a.m.
9 a.m.
on
on the
Thursday.
9th.
And then also, our next meeting will be on the 16th at 5, and that is our absentee provisional meeting. And that's a Thursday night at 5. That's when we'll go through any supplemental absentees and the provisionals and approve those that need to be approved. And then canvass is the 17th, Friday the 17th at 11. We do have one conflict because the statute does require that all board members are present. And Betsy has a conflict that day, a family issue. So what we'll do is we will call the meeting to order at 11, but then we need to recess it until we can get Betsy on the phone. And then once she's on the phone, we can continue with the meeting. The issue is a flight.
The flight,
So,
right, so
21 times.
it's supposed to land at noon, and then I leave again at 1:30, so between noon and 1:30, hopefully I can call Claire and be present.
Oh my God, we're relying on the airline schedule?
Well, I mean, yeah. If there was any way to not do,
Yeah.
yeah.
So I think what we're thinking is we'll start the meeting at 11, we'll recess it, and then we'll convene back at about 12:15 is kind of what
Right.
we're shooting for.
Right, and so like as soon as I get off the plane, I'll call Claire and
Yeah.
then we can, and she's gonna email me the documents, and so then we can just do it, and it should only take a few minutes.
Yeah, because we're having our absentee meeting that Friday night, so pretty much everything will be set that Friday night. It's just a matter of
You mean
preparing the
Thursday?
documents and, yeah, Thursday night, preparing the documents, get everything prepared for Canvas, and then you guys are approving the Canvas documents.
And I'll send y'all lunch, so you can sit here and eat lunch,
So,
wherever you want me to order it from. I apologize, but,
You can't help.
yeah.
Hey, you can't help what you can't help.
yeah.
Now a motion to adjourn, is that right?
Yeah.
There you go.
Let's second that.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right, 6:53, we are adjourned.